Today on FirstDown PlayBook, we're going to start our series about coaching youth football defensive linemen. And we're going to start with a zero technique, head up on the center, and eventually we're going to work all the way outside to a 9 technique. Now, we're not going to do but one technique per day. And today, as you can see, we're going to focus exclusively on coaching a young, and I'm talking about a 7, 8, 9-year-old defensive lineman at the youth football level, some of the fundamental things that you want to teach as you're teaching each one of these techniques. Now, you can see that we've got several of them right there, and in FirstDown PlayBook, at some point, you're going to be able to go in and you'll be able to look up here and get every one of these techniques just by clicking on them. So we'll get to that later. But what I'm going to do right now, I've got this drawing in edit mode, and I want to talk to you about some of the things you can and cannot expect when you're coaching a young defensive lineman, particularly a zero technique like we're talking about today. Now, this may be the hardest technique to play as a defensive lineman. If you're going to play a zero technique, meaning head up on that center, this better be a dominant player. Your nose tackle, nose guard, whatever you want to call them, better be dominant when comparing them to the talent level of the center across from them. All right, couple reasons why. When you play this technique, you're asking one of several things. You're asking this player right here to control 2 gaps based on what happens on the snap of the ball. You're asking this nose guard to have penetration and to knock that center back. You're asking a lot for a young defensive lineman who probably is going to have trouble keeping their pads down, hands inside, being physical, all the things that you need to do, all right, to be a good zero nose guard. All right, now, the first thing I want to talk about, though, if you do want to play it, and you can, there's some things you can do to help them, is your stance, all right? Oftentimes, coaches will put a young zero nose on a 4-point stance, and the reason they do that is because with a 4-point stance, meaning both hands down in the dirt, you can get in a balance deal with your feet, all right? And that's important because based on what the center does, if you're going to play this nose as a read nose, trying to win play side, all right, that nose is going to have to react to what the center does. And so a balanced stance is going to allow this nose step with the left foot, bring the right foot, if that's the way the play is going, or step with the right foot, bring the left foot, if that's the way the play is going. So you can put them in a 4 or a 3-point stance, but be very careful if you're asking this nose to play 2 gap or to win play side, that you make sure that their feet are somewhat balanced, or else they're going to be have a big advantage one way, but not so much the other. So balanced stance is important. All right, now, once again, the first step is going to be critical. All right, the first step, if you're going to read this, is going to be short. If the play goes this way, if the center comes off to the right, trying to reach the nose is going to have to step with the right foot, bring the left foot, get their hands inside, and control the A gap right here. And we're going to talk about that here more in a second. All right, now, the pads being low, really hard for a young defensive lineman to stay down. Most defensive linemen who are young are going to stand up and try to find the ball. They don't understand gap control yet. So the biggest thing that you're going to have to do is teach this nose guard right here how to defeat the center, how to defeat a double team, whatever blocking scheme that they get. Now, a couple ways that you can make it easier for a young nose. One way, when you're talking about reading and actually winning, once again, if they got a reach block over here and you want that nose guard to win in that gap, one way that you can help this nose is to back them off of the ball a little bit, and maybe even quite a bit. A lot of people will try to crowd the line of scrimmage with the young nose, and that's helpful, once again, if his nose is dominant. But if they're not, they're going to get lost. They're going to play the backside gap when they're supposed to be front side, and it's going to be a problem. So it's easier, much easier, if you're teaching a nose to read, leave them in the 4-point, leave them in the 3-point stance. Just back them off a little bit. Now, a second way that you can help a young nose guard is that maybe you don't necessarily need them to play the front side gap. So let's say that you're allowing this nose guard to line up right here, but on the snap of the ball, if they're getting reached this way, you allow them to be aggressive and attack, but they're allowed to play the backside gap. And the reason you can do that is because what you've got now is a linebacker over here that's going to play the front side gap, all right, on the reach block, and this nose will play the backside. So they've got somebody to compensate for them right there. All right, now, another way that you can help a young nose is simply this. Line them up in a zero, and on the snap of the ball, give them a direction, left or right, that they stunt into the gap. They stunt to the right or they stunt to the left. And so what you've done now is you've given the offense the illusion that you're going to play a zero, but on the snap of the ball, you're really getting this nose into a shade. And that's highly recommended if you've got a small, quick nose or a young nose that really is not ready to play this position yet. So once again, keeping in mind that these are all things that you can do to help a young nose guard. Now, with the base block right here, all right, like we talked about, one of the hardest things, you might get this in youth football. You might actually get to where if you had 3 techniques out here that the guards are going to block out, all your nose guard can really do if they get a straight base is once again, try to win, hands inside, pads down, try to control the nose, try to control the center, and win to the ball side. All right, and this is a scheme that you don't get a whole lot as you get into older ball, high school, college, NFL, but you might actually get a base block, all right, with both guards blocking out, and now this nose guard right here just tries to win, all right, to the play side. Now, let's go through some more common schemes that you're going to see, all right, a reach block or a cutoff block. If the play is going this way to the nose's left, this would be a reach block. If the play is going really the other way, or the ball would be like a cutoff block where he's backside. Right now, if the ball's going to the left right here, all right, this is the situation I was just talking about. On the snap of the ball, this center steps this way. This nose guard's got to step with their left foot, bring their right foot, hands inside. They've got to keep their left arm, all right, their left leg free and win in this A gap. And once again, that's a lot easier to do if the nose guard is off of the ball than if they're crowded. Now, once again, repeating myself, but if you want to allow this nose guard to play back door, then they don't have to worry about winning front door. All they do is attack the center and slide into the backside gap. Much easier to play that technique. All right, so what you'll notice here is I've got the guards are blocking one-on-one. Let's say they've got a 3 technique or something like that. So it's a one-on-one block here with the nose and the center. Now, what you oftentimes will get is a zone concept. All right. Now, same thing. If I am the nose, all right, I'm reading the center. Center snaps the ball, comes off this way on a zone concept. I want to try to win play side and try to beat the nose to the A gap if that's this technique I'm playing. If I'm allowed to play the backdoor technique, this is where it's really important, all right? I can play backdoor on this if the coach lets me do that, but I must get in this A gap. What cannot happen is I can't let the center get up on a backer and then the guard reaches me as well. They're over here on me. Now what I've done is I've created an extra gap, all right? A problem for the defense. So whether I'm playing, if I'm expected to play front door, I want to beat the center. If I'm playing back door, I want to let the center go, but I've got to beat the guard. What cannot happen is when the ball breaks to the line of scrimmage that the center and the guard both scoot me here. All right, so this is a very, very common blocking scheme that you're going to get as the players get older and you get into middle school and high school. Now, some of the more common blocking schemes that you're going to see in youth football, you're going to get this same base block that we talked about, but now you're going to get a double team, okay? Now is where you're going to start getting maybe a double team on the nose and a double team on a 3 technique out here or whatever. So the technique doesn't really change a lot for the nose guard initially. The nose is going to read a base block, and they want to step, all right, and try to defeat the center, all right, with hands inside, low pad level. The difference comes when they begin to feel the down block outside. All right, they're not going to necessarily see this because they're going to be focused on defeating the center. But what you want to do is teach, and this comes through drills over and over and over, working on double teams. As the nose is defeating that center and they feel the guard coming down on them, what they want to do is they want to lean, all right, and even drop in this A gap. If it's a young player, highly recommend that you teach them just to drop the near shoulder, drop the near hip, get skinny, get on the ground, and penetrate right through this gap right here. Now, before I get 9,000 calls from defensive line coaches that are coaching in high school and college, I get it. You don't have to drop on this to defeat it. But we're talking about a very young youth football nose guard that hasn't seen this very much. And odds are, if you let them try to do what you would do if a high school player, they're going to stand up and they're going to end up back here somewhere with the center and the guard pushing them off the ball. So the best thing to do when you've got a young nose guard is once they try to defeat the center, feel the guard come down, drop the inside or the near hip, drop the near shoulder, get skinny, and try to penetrate in that gap. All right, now that is a double team with the guard coming outside and the guard away from him is just blocking the guard. All right, a 3 technique over here. A similar blocking scheme that you can get would be the same look, all right, but now what you're getting is the guard pulling across. Really, if you're coaching, once again, a very young zero nose, that zero nose right now needs to do the exact same thing, but as they're doing that, if they see, all right, and if they get better at the technique, they see the guard pulling across, they can actually cross this guard's face right here and try to win in the B gap. Where you would not do that, back over here, it'd be very important that you just stay in this A gap right here. But as the player gets older and more experienced, and maybe you're playing a team that runs the power, runs the counter, runs a lot of guard pull, all right, when they get this block right here, all right, now, and they can actually see this guard pulling across, they can try to cross the guard's face into the B gap. Once again, that comes with a little bit more experience. All right, now, another scheme that you will actually get in youth football, maybe more than you would in high school, or maybe more would you get in high school, college, or the NFL, is the center pulling. So, same thing right here. As I'm the nose, I've got to read what's going on with this center. Is he trying to reach me this way? Is he trying to reach me that way? Am I getting a base block? Am I getting a double? When I see the center snap the ball and pull to the right or to the left, immediately I've got to take that, all right, and I've got to expect a down block one way or another. If I don't get a down block, it's pretty easy. I'm going to get in the center's hip pocket and follow them right down the line of scrimmage to the play, all right? And then if I get the down block, there's really one of two ways that you can play this, all right? You can do the exact same thing. If I am penetrating and I'm already up the field and I can just follow that center to the ball, that's what I want to do. Sometimes that's hard, once again, for a young nose to do, particularly playing a zero technique. If they see the center pull and they feel the down block, what they can do at that point in time is fight into the down block, all right, attack the down block, all right, with inside hand placement. And then what they want to do is they want to cross, all right, face, and try to get to the ball that way, here. But once again, two different ways you can play it. A lot depends on the technique you're teaching. Are you teaching penetration on the snap, or are you teaching read? Penetrators can get in the hip pocket, all right, and a young nose, if they're getting a down block, all right, and they're reading, can just play into this down block and cross the face. All right, now that kind of sums up pretty much what you're going to get with a young youth football nose in the run game. Two common schemes with the passing game. The passing game is not a big a threat at the youth football level, but you will get it. And sometimes you'll get schemes that are a little bit different than what you would get in high school or college. So this right here is a good example of putting the center one-on-one with the nose. All right, if you get this, and let's say both guards are blocking out, maybe they've got 3 techniques out here or whatever, your nose right here now can attack, all right, and rush the passer and really have a two-way go. All right, what you want to tell them to do right here is whichever way they can win, and oftentimes if they can start one way and come back or start the other way and come back, it's going to be the best bet. Or once again, if they're a dominant player, they can just run up over top of the center and physically outmatch them. All right, the more common blocking scheme that you're going to get in youth football is you're going to get where they're going to gap protect with pass pro one way or another. The ball be snapped, and everybody is going to protect the gap to the offense's right or the defense's left, or it could go the other way. If you flip it, could go this way. All right, now, this is where there is some technique and some construction that goes into this. If I recognize pass, all right, and I'm up the field with this, and I feel this nose, the center go away, and I'm the nose. What I want to do is I want to work back into the next gap and try to penetrate to the quarterback, all right? Now, if I do this and that guard is there and does a good job blocking me, I can work back to the next gap, all right? I want to continue, all right, to work back across A, B, and even sometimes C until I get an opening to the quarterback. Because once again, this is a much more sound protection for younger players when they know they just have to protect this gap and the guard's protecting that gap and the tackle would be protecting the B gap. So as a technique, once again, once I start attacking a gap, if I can win, I can win. If I can't win, cross face and get to the next gap to the quarterback. So those are some of the common blocking schemes that you're going to get in youth football and some of the ways that we would teach a zero nose. Now we'll come back, all right, in a couple days and we're going to talk about a shade, all right, which is similar, but in our opinion, a lot different, all right, than what you would teach a nose, because you're allowing this player right here, all right, to be able to play gap, all right, a lot easier than you would with a zero nose like we're talking about today. So once again, if you go into FirstDown PlayBook and you're going to find this in there, you can go in and find the play, but you also up here will be able to find all those techniques with coaching points up here in the variations drop down as well.